All right, today we are going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff on Out of Office, including the sale of Burke Mountain, including recalls from Santa Cruz, Canyon going to Amazon, and we have Julian Carr on the show to talk all about Cirque Series coming to New England for the very first time, all on this week's show. First and foremost, we're going to talk about Canyon opening to Amazon. Now, Canyon spokespeople have said that they think this is a really good thing for accessibility and growing the sport and all that stuff. And honestly, I don't really disagree. To me, a company that already sells direct to consumer only, not a big deal that they're now using Amazon as a sales platform. Like traditionally, you can only buy bad bikes on Amazon. Now you can buy nicer bikes on there. I don't really understand what the huge deal is. They were already taking dollars away from bike shops anyway. This isn't going to change that. It's going to be more of the same. And I bet you a lot of other brands continue to do the same thing that they've been doing, and eventually will swap over and start selling direct on Amazon. Like, I think the way that we're heading, there's no way that every brand doesn't want to put more bikes out the door, especially with the current state of what the economy is. I think this is a really, really good indicator of like how everybody's feeling. And it's like, let's just move product. We need to move product. We need to keep doors open and we need to keep things functional. And I think this Canyon situation is a good example of that. Next, we're going to talk about recalls. And if you are a Santa Cruz Heckler owner, you should take a look at your bike. There is a serial number on the battery itself. You can bring it to your local bike shop, to your shop where you bought that bike, and they will take it apart for you and get you a new battery if your serial number is within the range. Now, there are about 2,800 of these bikes that are included in this recall. Obviously, that is a pretty small sample size overall, but when you talk about people that own full suspension e-bikes, it's a pretty good chunk of the pie. It's really only 22 and 23 year model year bikes that this has affected, but it is something to note. And I think, obviously, as technology progresses and as some of these bikes that have just come out get more and more use on them, you're going to start to see this happen more. Santa Cruz did a good job by making it super clear, making it super easy to get a replacement battery. But if you're not going to see one of these releases and your battery catches on fire, you're going to be an unhappy camper, I think. So dealers have been instructed to let their customers know that have bought them. So that is another thing to keep note of as well. Santa Cruz is really trying to keep tabs on who has these things, if they're out in the wild, and if they are, please replace the battery. Next, we're going to take a little break from just me talking, and we're going to send it off to Julian Carr. And he's going to tell us all about Cirque Series, what it is, and I'm going to let these guys tell you more about what it means to be having an event like this in New England.
Well, I'll quickly jump in and say Cirque Series, we're just thrilled to be coming out to Vermont and New Hampshire. I founded the races in 2015, and kind of the whole, long story short is they're really vert intensive, shorter races. Our average race is about 8 miles with 3,000 vert. So we always go up to a summit or multiple summits. And we like it to be pretty direct. We like, any elements of technical terrain, getting up into that high alpine. And we've historically done races in the Western Rockies, Alaska, and Europe. And east, getting out east, New England, it's been kind of like the top of the to-do list for where to expand to. And we actually reeled back our race from Europe because we're like, you know what, let's focus on the US. Let's pull the race from Europe and let's go out east. And so here we are. Through lots of, back and forth over the last 6-7 months, we've been able to generate these two races out there, Killington and Cannon. And I can hand it off to Tom a little bit more to kind of, why we chose those spots and how thrilled we are to be there. And obviously I'm thrilled that Tom is on board with Cirque Series to kick things off out east.
Yeah, I mean, how could you not be psyched to be asked to do this? I mean, I'm a huge proponent of sub ultra races as it is. I mean, these short, punchy, fast races up, with 3,300 feet of vert are just so much fun. So when with what I do and what he does, it was a perfect mix. So this winter when we were sitting around on our computer, we were picking resorts to what would put on the best Cirque Series style race. And we just came up with those two and reached out to them, and luckily they both resorts thought it was an amazing idea. So
yeah, and I'll say that me, I have a big ski background, and so I know the West resorts quite well, and I'm kind of not proud of it, but the only place I've skied east of Colorado is Boyne, Michigan, which obviously
Fuck off, dude.
So obviously I know all these main spots. When Tom was like, dude, just Google Cannon, New Hampshire. And I was blown away because I knew the vert was there. I know there's cool mountains out there. I've been out there in the summertime to like Stowe and stuff. And I was pretty blown away. Cannon is insane. And the greater like Killington area and the whole vibe and how green it is and how big the mountains are. I was pretty shocked at the vert, number one, which I was like, oh, this works. So after getting to know more of the characters that are based out there, Cannon, definitely seems like it's quite the spot. So we're pretty stoked on it.
Cannon is like as core gets, I think, in New England. Like they're like one of those places that, especially in the winter, it's like if it snows, cool. If it doesn't snow, also cool. Like we're just gonna run it the way that it is, and make the terrain the way that it is like if Cannon says something's closed, it's really closed.
It has to be horrible.
And they're the best people that I've worked with, I think, in a long time. So I'm really excited to see it come to Cannon in particular, but Killington will be awesome as well. My question, I guess, on all of that is like, what do you guys like? We know the venues, and I think our audience knows the venues really well. My question for you guys is like, what are we expecting for an athlete turnout there? Like, what are we expecting people are going to do as far as times go? Like, I'm sure these are things that have not even really been super well registered at this point, but like, what are we expecting out of this event in terms of like who's going to show up and show out?
I'll answer this. I think it's going to be stacked. I think it's so. I mean, the U.S. National Championship is in New Hampshire 6 days beforehand.
Yeah.
So if we can keep these athletes here, a small little drive, I think that one. I mean, Cirque is recognized anyways. So, pulling the best from all over the country and then having this on top of it, I think the field is going to be really deep.
I think it's going to be a very competitive race. And
for sure.
Man, Oakley Olsen's coming from Colorado. She's coming. Yeah. She was the snowbird champ. I mean, I think it's going to be unbelievable.
So let me ask you this
then. Looking at registrations, we have like Lee Mulligan, Julian Yamba, Abby Bennett. And so, yeah, it's going to be pretty competitive. I'm pretty excited.
That's what I think I'm kind of leaning into here is like, what do we think it's going to be a local that wins? Like, do we think in New Hampshire? And I'm asking this knowing that like the people that I ski tour with, the people that I ride bikes with up in New Hampshire are some of the freakiest athletes that are just like people you've never heard of in your life that are absolutely insane people. So do we think that it's going to be somebody that comes in, like has a big name sponsor, comes in from out of town and wins? Or do we think it's going to be a local? Like that's really what I'm trying to guess at here.
Are we taking bets on this?
That's what I'm betting on. Yes, for sure. If I was betting, I would bet on a local winning because some of these people are freaks. Like it's crazy.
If there's 6 podium spots, right? So 3 men, 3 women, I'm going 4 local.
I like that. That's a good take.
I like that. Yep. Well, the good news is too, for everyone listening, we also have, we have our pro podium, we have our expert podium, and we have our sport podium. And historically, Cirque Series races, about 60% of the field are our sport category. So we try to be all-inclusive, make everyone be stoked, big party atmosphere, and, have it kind of be all walks of life. We average, ages like 10 through 65, just about every race. And obviously great prize money for the pros. So anyone that's listening that might be intimidated by us spitting out all these high names and talking about who's going to win, it's still a big party. So anybody's welcome. Come on out.
And I mean, let's talk about like what brings. I had just done my first Cirque Series when I went to Snowbird. I've never seen an after party with a raffle that is an hour and a half long. I've never seen so many giveaways. I mean, it's basically offsetting the entry fee. They're making money on this with shoes and Yeti coolers and Canadian Goose jackets. I have never seen anything like that on the East Coast. Don't get me wrong. You don't stop the party. The party's still going. DJ's going, doing a raffle, adult beverages. It was great. It was fantastic.
again, having a ski background, having après to celebrate and talk about your adventure is crucial. Our average age across all our Cirque Series is 29. So it's a really cool, just kind of young professional vibe. Young professionals are out, and it's about 50-50 for male-female turnout. So it's just a really fun place for people to meet and high five and come with your friends and have a beer,
Sick. Last thing here, people can still sign up. This is going to come out on Monday. People can still register and still come out and hang out. And if they're not, they can obviously still come and watch the event. Like what's the situation there? How long do people have before we're nixing signups?
Yeah, we're capping at 500.
Okay.
We're about halfway there, which is amazing. So to register, just go to cirqueseries.com. You'll see all of our races, but obviously you'll see Cannon and Killington listed right off the bat. We're kicking off our season out there. And yeah, I mean, we have a whole bunch of brands that are going to be there, lots of public and spectators, friends, family. So if you're curious, just come up, hang out for the day, check it out. Check out the sponsors, say hi to people, meet people, or just register. Like I said, 60% of the entrants are sport category anyway. You're going to surprise yourself and kick butt.
Sick. Awesome. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Of course, man. We'll see you there.
Thank you to Julian and Tom for taking the time and sitting down with me and kind of chatting through this event. I think it's a really cool addition to what there is to do in New England, but also just to what Cirque Series has to offer. Like, this is really cool that it's coming to New England and to two iconic destinations in Cannon and Killington. Cannon will be on June 7th and Killington will be on June 28th. So we'll see you out there for those events. The last thing we were going to talk about tonight is the sale of Burke Mountain. Finally, it has sold for $11.5 million to Bear Den Partners. This has been going on for a minute. They've been looking for a buyer. They've been trying to sell it to different people, and the deal is done. Is this going to change a whole lot about Burke? I don't know. I'm very curious to see if the hype around Burke grows a little bit with some of this news coming out. The support around Burke, I think, has been really good when it comes to like talking about the race programs and the locals. But I think when people are up that way, a lot of times Burke is forgotten about. So I'm very curious to see if this is actually going to change the perception of Burke, if more people start going there on a regular basis, and what it does to their events programs. I'm sure it's only going to get better. Bear Den Partners is a great buyer for this resort. They know what they're doing and they know how to run a resort. So very, very hopeful news for the Burke Mountain lovers. And that is it for this week's episode of Out of Office. We will see you next time. Goodbye.